and welcome back to this week's episode of the Irish Accent Podcast. I hope you all had a lovely weekend. Today is Monday, which means it is my beginner to lower intermediate level episode, and this week I'm finally going to talk about the Irish accent. After all, the Irish accent is the whole reason I started this podcast. When I lived abroad and taught English, I realised that many people were not familiar with the Irish accent. Most students learn American English or British English at school. Their textbooks use American spelling, and a lot of the movies, TV shows and music they listen to are also either American or British. But I think it's really important for learners to also get used to the Irish accent. More and more people want to study in Ireland or even move to Ireland to work or live. So being comfortable with the Irish accent is very useful. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about where the Irish accent comes from, what makes it special, why it can sometimes be hard to understand, and also discuss some of the different accents that you can hear across the country. So, first of all, where does the Irish accent come from? Well, the Irish accent comes from the Irish language, which is also known as Gaeilge. For hundreds of years, Irish was the main language in Ireland, and English arrived later. When Irish people began speaking English, the rhythm and the sounds of Irish influenced how they spoke. That is why Irish English sounds so different from the English that is spoken in England or America. Some people say you can still hear a little bit of the music of the Irish language in the way English is spoken here today. So, what makes the Irish accent unique? Well, first of all, I already mentioned the musical quality. The Irish accent often rises and falls more than other accents. Secondly, the R sound. In Irish English, the R is very strong. So words like car or for are pronounced with a clear R at the end of them. Thirdly, the TH sound. In some regions, people might say tink instead of think, or that instead of that. And of course, that depends where in Ireland you are. Another feature is the A sound in words like car or park. So you may have heard that earlier when I was talking about the hard R sound at the end of words, but that sound can often sound harder or longer. And finally, the intonation and rhythm. Irish English often stresses words in a different way, which can make sentences sound maybe less predictable if you're not used to the accent. I think that around the world, the Irish accent is quite famous for being maybe quite warm or friendly or musical, as I already mentioned. Many surveys even call it one of the most attractive accents in English. Of course, for learners who have not been exposed to the Irish accent very often, it can definitely take time to adjust to, because the rhythm and speed are not always the same as American or British English. But once your ear gets used to it, I think it can become one of the most enjoyable accents to listen to. Now, there are many different versions of the Irish accent, so I'm going to discuss some of the regional accents. Ireland is a very small country, but the accents change a lot depending on where you are. I'll only be able to discuss a simple overview of some of the accents today, so in the show notes of this episode, I've put some links to interviews with people from different parts of the country, so you can actually hear the different accents for yourself. I won't try to do the different accents, but please do listen to the different interviews to get a sense of how different the accent can be. So, first of all, within Dublin, which is our capital, there are two very different accents. We have the North Dublin accent and the South Dublin accent. The North Dublin accent is often a bit flatter, it's often much faster, and it often drops that TH sound or changes it into a D sound, like one of the examples I mentioned earlier. The South Dublin accent is totally different, and sometimes people even say it sounds a little American. The vowel sounds are very, very different, and often at the end of the sentences, South Dublin people's accent will go up, or their voice will go up, so it almost sounds like a question. I would definitely recommend checking out the 2 links I have put in the description. The first link is to an interview with 2 men who have North Dublin accents, and the second is an interview with a woman who has a South Dublin accent. And by listening to both interviews, you will be able to see how different the 2 accents are, even though both of them are technically Dublin accents. So let's now look at the southeast, or accents from the southeast of Ireland. So that's actually where I am from. So you're currently listening to a southeast accent. I think in the southeast's accents are sometimes gentler, and they're often easier to understand. When people find out I'm from Ireland, they will often say, "Oh, I didn't expect that. Your accent is very easy to understand." Because sometimes people might have seen videos online of different Irish accents which are maybe harder to understand. And compared to that, the Southeast accent is a little easier to understand. Even Irish people sometimes can't tell exactly where in the Southeast someone comes from because the accent is less distinctive. The Cork accent is one of the most recognisable accents in Ireland. It rises and falls a lot. It almost sounds like singing. Personally, I love the Cork accent. The actor Cillian Murphy, who is in Peaky Blinders, comes from Cork. I would say his accent is quite soft. It's quite a soft Cork accent. But if you actually go to Cork, you can hear some very strong versions of it. Right beside Cork, there is Kerry. It's the county right beside Cork. And the Kerry accent is also very musical, and I also love this accent, but it can be quite difficult to understand. Even people from other parts of Ireland sometimes struggle to understand the Kerry accent. There's a very famous video online of a farmer in Kerry talking about his sheep, and even Irish people found that hard to understand. I've actually put the link to that video in the show notes. And then finally, Northern Irish accents are also very distinctive. They're sharper, faster, and they also use very different vowel sounds. For example, the word now can sound more like nigh. The actor Liam Neeson is from Northern Ireland, and his voice is a good example of a softer version of the Northern Irish accent. So that was a very brief overview of just some of the accents that you can find within Ireland. On Thursday, in my intermediate or higher intermediate to advanced level podcast, I will go into a little bit more detail about the regional accents in Ireland. But I'm probably biased, but I do think the Irish accent is a really nice accent. And I would love to see more people around the world who are learning English becoming more familiar and comfortable with the Irish accent. If you would like to practice more, I really do recommend listening to the interview clips I've added below, or just searching on YouTube for different Irish accents or regional Irish accent, and you will be able to find so many different versions. The more you listen, of course, the easier it will be to recognise and understand them. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed this mini tour of Irish accents, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you again next week. Bye bye!